want to feel like there is like his dead body there. It's so disturbing and so insanely like beautiful to me. It just does something to me. I saw a dream that was so worrying to me. Where did all this go? Where did you go? Feeling a lot more free than I am because I can't.
Horse. 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 Horse.
Oh my God.
Horse. Horse.
It's like we're in a
Horse.
cult.
Horse.
The more I listen, the better I feel, and it's been so long since I've felt better. Like you remember it, but you don't feel like you're actively reliving it. He was like, you should have never taken me there because I came out so much worse out of there. Like you made a monster by doing that. Saying like, I remember how cold his skin was. Not like this like vampiric beautiful prince, that kind of thing. No, like he was just like a real person. It felt like he knew why he was there. Like he's the religious one. I want to see what he looked out onto. Like, was it the water? Did you see something else? Is there like a pier? Are there yachts? Are there boats? Like, what were you looking at? I'm still the same person, just different circumstances. I don't know, am I building a life that has like an expiration date? I feel inferior, and I don't like feeling that way. I felt like understood, and I wanted to show it in its glory at night. But you know, that's just what happens when you die. See, now I need to get used to seeing myself. Ooh. Ooh. Nope. Nope. It's better. So I've been watching a lot of videos by Anya, and I admired so much her ability to be fun in front of the camera and do cool things, and it was so refreshing also seeing like how much emotion she is expressing. I feel like that's something I really look up to because I don't even share anything of my regular life unless it is purely art, and I spent a long time working on it. Like right now I'm working on a video, glad to be unemployed. It is like the total opposite of this. I mean, actually, I guess it's closer to that because I recorded the audio while like taking a walk in the park, and then I transcribed it, and then I turned it into a zine. But generally, what I'm trying to get at is, and I also posted about this on Instagram, which like not many people saw because it was just very throwaway text somewhere in the back of it. But basically, I'm starting to think that sharing just zines might not be enough for me to get to where I want to get. I feel like there's so much other stuff that I really want to document, and there's so many things that I experience on a daily, weekly, monthly basis that doesn't get captured. And you know, we'll see how I feel about this experience today. But even right now, I'm like not even at a point where, oh my god, I'm gonna get bitten by mosquitoes. Even right now, like when I'm in my room or my half of the room, I don't really have a lot of privacy, and I don't really have a lot of like space to express myself. Let's just say that. And I think my partner doesn't either, because we share a room in a house with like 5 people and 4 cats and 2 dogs now. So I always look for excuses to not share or to like postpone showing myself on camera. I always hate how I look. I always hate like my double chin. I hate the fact that like, I don't know, sometimes I have like some kind of gender dysmorphia where I'm like, I hate that I'm not a man. I just want to be a man. And sometimes, but then I like actually think about it and I'm like, do I know? I don't know. My friend says that, Yana, you're on a journey. And I'm like, man, I'm on so many journeys. I feel like I'm like getting flopped around. The kinds of people that I look up to on a lot of different platforms, like they don't just share their art, they share themselves. And while I really think that yes, my personality comes through my zines, I don't know, there's just like so much missing, and I just really wish people had like more to connect to. So I'm gonna be trying to find some way to combine this. You know, I'm still trying to figure out how to share more. It's gonna be a lot of experimenting. I don't even know what category to put this video into. It's just gonna be something else. Because I tried to break it down by like editions. Because first I started making zines, all of them were on brown paper. And they were like, you know, rugged is what I called them. And then I made a mini zine, and that I'm like, okay, I guess it's still that. And then I made a zine that's just on full black paper and vertical. And I'm like, okay, let's just bunch it all into one thing. And then I made another zine on black paper. And then another one where I'm making another one. Anyway, oh yeah, and then I made the termination letter and the severance package. And those aren't really the rugged ones because they're very like corporate style, but really meant to be pretty anti-corporate. And gradually when I started making more and more, the categories started mixing and combining, and I know that people like seeing some kind of pattern or some kind of way to think about it as opposed to just like completely random, completely different looking things. But life is complicated. I don't know how to sort everything out in these very neat boxes. I don't even know where this would fit in.
Yeah. Also, I have friends, but sometimes I feel like my friends are acquaintances more. And I have some friends that I actually consider friends. But I feel like just some stuff I would rather share on the internet. You know, I'm in this transitional period where I'm trying to find my people, even though I'm not gonna be in Dallas for that long, because I'll have to move to a blue state eventually. Because in Dallas, or in Texas, I am 5 times less likely to be given asylum than in another state. And that depends on individual judges. So Texas likes judges that only give like 20% of people asylum, while in places like New York and other places, it's still a lot of people get rejected, but some judges have like a 90% chance, like, asylum approval rate. So it really depends on who decides to be a judge in that state, who actually ends up being put in that position, you know, what values they end up going with, how they interpret the law, stuff like that. And as much as I like Texas, which I really do, like, there's something feels really familiar about it. It almost feels a lot of ways like Russia. Like the way that the highways are built, sometimes I would be like driven, or I'll be driving and I'll just see the Texas stars, and we literally have the same thing, but it's like the World War II star. So this like kind of patriotism, some of the imagery, you would be surprised, would be oddly similar. The way that, again, the urban infrastructure, like roads and highways and all of that stuff, that looks very similar to Russia or to Moscow. And in some way it makes sense, because Dallas is this kind of like businessy city, and Moscow is also considered the businessy city, while St. Petersburg is like the artsy, you know, finding yourself. Like, they have their own vocabulary, and when you get there you don't even know what people are saying, because the slang is so different, and it has been different for like at least a century, that at this point you just hear words and you don't understand. So it could be considered, I guess, its own dialect maybe. And it's just two cities that aren't super far apart. But anyway, I'm like getting carried away into other stuff, but let's stay in the moment, because I'm gonna reveal more and more. Like, all of these thoughts, all of these things that I'm telling you right now, I have explained this to people so many times. Cultural aspects, other stuff, but I never really shared it on the internet, because all of it is behind the iron curtain of what makes it into the art. And so much time, for so long, I didn't consider these kinds of videos art, but I don't know. I feel like even these kinds of videos are almost dying out, and I really miss them, and I want to make more of them, or like the algorithm just doesn't recommend them to me, so I'm like, where did all this go? Where did you go? And some of the YouTubers who used to be popular at the rise of this genre, or like at the re-emergence of this genre, so there's like Emma Chamberlain, and then there was like the next people, and then before Emma Chamberlain there were other people like that as well, but like the first instance I remember people just sitting down and talking was Emma Chamberlain, and then, or at least like someone who was kind of my age. I think she's my age, yeah. Then I started watching people like Leah's Field Notes. That's the biggest one I can remember, because she's just wonderful. And then I would see Anya in her videos, but I didn't really watch a lot of Anya's videos until probably this week. So yeah, and it was such a breath of fresh air, and so many of her videos are old, so I'm still watching videos that are like 5 years old. And I don't know. I miss that kind of stuff. What time is it? Ooh, 9:52. That's fine. Now, to today's topics. I decided that I would talk about things that are just, I guess, on my mind this week. So, two things that were on my mind are two places that I just decided I just want to go there. Maybe again, maybe it's me watching other people's content of going to places and being and feeling a lot more free than I am, because I can't leave the US because, or technically I can, but if I do, like, I will never be let back in, because I'm applying for asylum. I'm saying, hey, I don't feel safe outside, or I don't feel safe anywhere but this country, which is true. Because the prospect of like me going back to Russia, just even to visit, like, no. I'm not ready to be around severely mentally unstable people with like no police or like anybody being able to help me, and culturally just people just accepting domestic violence and that kind of stuff. Anyway, so I can't leave the US, and I don't even really get paid enough. Like, I don't have PTO right now. I don't get paid enough to even save anything to have enough to travel, because I need to save everything for when I move out of here. But whenever I ask for a raise, which is gonna happen. Oh yeah, one of the things I wrote down is that I want a raise, because I'm taking on so much more responsibility, and I'm very proud of myself that I'm able to handle it, and then it's gonna be more and more, and after a certain point, I'm gonna ask for a raise. Like, I'm feeling it right now already. I'm ready. But even thinking about places in the US that I want to visit, it's really interesting, because so one of them is Peter Steele's grave in New York. Peter Steele of Typo Negative, which is the band I have been deeply obsessed with. Not, I don't, some songs, we just don't talk about them. We don't, no, like, no. We don't, some stuff we don't talk about. I would say 90% of stuff, it just does something to me. There's something about the chords that are chosen, the sound of the guitars, the roughness, the kind of like rough edges, but so melodic, beautiful, heavy, both lyrics wise and just like metal wise. It's, some people wouldn't really consider it metal because they themselves at the time didn't consider it metal. I, for myself, consider them goth metal, just because in the context of a lot of the other stuff, especially now as we're going more towards like pop and hip hop music, I would say they turn from being alternative, they get kind of squeezed closer to metal, and especially goth metal. And it's interesting because goth metal is so different from actual goth music. Like, the goth music genre is so different than goth metal. I like goth metal. And I don't know, it just those songs, that like person and like his story, it's so disturbing and so insanely like beautiful to me. And it's still like sometimes, I don't know, when I was on my period, I would be driving and I'm like, damn, this man is dead. And he has been dead for 15 years. And I'm sad. I don't know, it's just sad the way that his life ended. I'll talk about it. There's a zine coming. There's a zine coming. It's called In Love with a Dead Man. Because, yeah, I have some kind of weird parasocial relationship with a dead person. I saw a dream that was so worrying to me, but worrying, it was peaceful but also worrying. I don't believe in like this. I don't know what I think about all the supernatural stuff, and you know, my friends trying to get me into witchcraft. We'll see. But I'm usually, you know, cynic and skeptic, and I think dreams are just, especially as someone who like studied cognitive science, neuroscience, like all of this stuff. To myself, I can explain a lot of stuff with just the way that the brain works, and I think it's beautiful, and I think more people should learn about it because it's just like such insanely cool stuff. So whatever, you know, I see, I don't take it as, oh, it actually happened, or oh, this person is actually like their soul is stuck or something. No, I just think it's my feelings kind of and my thoughts. It's just your brain replays that stuff during the night. It's moving those things from your RAM, let's say, to your like long-term like other disk, like a portable whatever. It's moving stuff into your long-term memory, and the way that it does that is like dreaming is one way of doing that. When you dream, you have like your eyes move side to side, which is different from when you're usually like during the day, your eyes usually move up and down. So that's why things like rapid EMDR, eye movement, desensitization, something, and replay, that therapy, that's why it helps for people with PTSD, because with PTSD, like you are having trouble moving those traumatic memories. Like they're stuck in a certain part of the brain, and a certain part of the brain gets activated when you are thinking about this stuff. And so like flashbacks and that kind of stuff, that's what happens. While if it's no longer traumatic memory, then it's in your long-term memory, and it's not like you remember it, but you don't feel like you're actively reliving it. So that's why moving your eyes side to side like you do in EMDR, while like thinking about that stuff and processing it, and like not talking through it like in talk therapy but in other things, that's why it helps, or that's the theory. Anyway, so I can explain a lot to myself with neuroscience. Whatever level of it we understand now, maybe we'll revisit a lot of those topics and we'll be like, oh yeah, we were totally wrong about this. We have been wrong so many times. But I saw a dream where it was so strange. It was almost like a VR chat world, in a sense that it was it was like a city that was designed for a very small game. And you know, there was like a bar or something that I hung out in, or you know, bar, club, something kind of rock-ish. It's like a bar where like you see like a rock band play, and then I don't drink, but I just go to those places because it's people and loud music, and if it's not super clubby, like I like the grungy kind of places. So I went to one of those, and then I come out, and then I see that there's kind of like a stairway going. It's kind of like in an alley, and it's a stairway going down into like a basement of a building, or a bit, or almost like a shed-looking thing. So it's like a shed, just like in an alley or like between parking lots or something, and then there's a basement like under it where somebody's living. And so then I'm going to see, like, to visit Peter Steele, and then I go there, and he is old-ish. Like, he's not like an old man, he's like the age that he was like before he died. So 48, you know, 48 post alcoholism and other drug addiction issues. So, you know, looking older than 48 in a way, or just looked very tired and not like this like vampiric beautiful prince, that kind of thing. No, like he was just like a real person. And I wrote in the zine about how seeing those photographs of him old, and you know, seeing how he has aged, and seeing just like very candid photos, it's like uncomfortably humanizing, because you go from really idolizing someone to seeing interviews where he's just like broken and very sane, but talking very honestly about like family betrayal and that kind of thing. And you can also see that like whatever he considers betrayal, like, yes, I would maybe consider it betrayal too. But also his family was extremely worried about him, and the I guess the only thing they could think of is put him into rehab. But that's the thing, I don't think they put him in rehab. I think they sent him to just like a psych ward, which I don't know how many rehab places there were, like just rehab, as opposed to like the police takes you away to a psych ward kind of thing. And he was like, you should have never taken me there, because I came out so much worse out of there. Like, you made a monster by doing that. And in the dream, like he was more peaceful, but it's almost like he was stuck in that room, in that basement. It was just bare walls, kind of crinkled everything. But yeah, and it was just bare walls, and it felt like he couldn't leave there, like almost he was like on house arrest, but it was the afterlife. Like I knew he was dead, and he knew he was dead, and all his life was just in that basement with a couch and with his cross. And actually I don't remember seeing the cross there, never mind. And like a fridge and a very, you know, naked kitchen. And I remember coming down there and like being happy to see him, and it's kind of like I knew him and he knew me, and I might have like brought him some food or something, and he was shirtless, and I gave him a hug. And it's so interesting, like I remember how cold his skin was. Still like feeling alive, but I just remember like the texture of his torso. I remember like how he was also like extremely tall. So in real life he was like 6'8". And I remember in the dream, like I came up and I was like at most at the bottom part of his chest. Like that's where like my head was. So he was like, yeah, so it felt like he was like 2 feet taller than me, or at least like 1.5 feet, which is accurate. And I just remember how like his skin was cold, very soft, but in a way of like when somebody has a little bit of like, you know, like this kind of soft. Like, you know, not like a super toned whatever, just like a normal 48-year-old man who's had drinking problems. Soft. Not mushy, but like soft and squishy, yeah. And it was just so interesting, like feeling that. And I remember texting my friend about that dream and saying like, and she was like, and that's a weird dream. And I'm like, yeah, because it felt like it was like a consolation hug. Because he was just stuck there, and it felt like he knew why he was there. And that, you know, for him it was just like, yeah, that's just like, I have to pay for what I did, and I have to pay for my sins. So I'm just, you know, that's just what happens when you live the way that I do. And I'm like, but dude, you know, in the zine I wrote about like, oh, you know, maybe we'll hang out in heaven. But then I think about it, and like, I don't even know if by his standards he would go to heaven. Like, he's the religious one, and I don't know if in his religion or in his belief he would go to heaven, or if he would be stuck in that limbo. And I just want to visit his grave because I want to, it's kind of morbid, but like, I want to feel like there is like his dead body there. I want to feel more like he was a real person, and that, you know, all there is to him is under the ground, decomposed, which is like, so like, I'm talking about this and I'm like, come on. But you know, that's just what happens when you die. I want to feel that like eerie feeling, and I want to pay respect, and I want to show somehow to like his remains, like bring flowers or something, because I don't know, I feel like it's a tangible way to show somebody appreciation after they died, because like, you know, there isn't a singular place or anything like that. Like, what do you do? And I used to be really like against, I was like, I never want to get buried. I want to be cremated. Like, why would I take up extra space in earth and that kind of thing? With me, yeah, I mean, I'm not attached to the idea of like me, you know, having a grave, because I'm not going to be the one visiting my grave. Or maybe I will be, but we'll see. Oh, I guess I'm going to find out, and then I'm not really going to be able to tell you because I'll be dead. But yeah, I want to feel that feeling, and I want to be able to, for somebody I admire and have like good feelings about, whose art makes and made and continues to make like a big impact on me, because I feel like it's like doing something to me in terms of like helping me process a lot of stuff. I don't even know. It's very mysterious. I don't know what is there about it, but I know that the more I listen, the better I feel. And it's been so long since I've felt better.
Types of people in the world.
So I want to be respectful, and I also want to be in that place and like feel death, his death. So that's one. Another thing is, another place I want to go to is Hemingway's house in Key West. I've been reading a lot of Hemingway because I like the way that he writes simply. I like his very to the point sentences. I like that it's not hard to understand. I like it more in The Sun Also Rises. Like, I'm reading right now Farewell to Arms, and that gets, he's like 49 when he published that book, but he was writing it from the age of 30 to 49. So basically, yeah, he wrote like basically it was 20 years in the making. But I can tell that his style has changed over time. He's gotten more elaborate, you know. But even in The Old Man and the Sea, I like how simple it is. I have always been the kind of person who I want simplicity I want clarity in expression. Because being an international kid and person, there have been so many times when I'm reading a research paper in fucking neuroscience or something else, and they're just using ridiculously elaborate language that is so unnecessary. You could have said the same thing in such an easier way, and I was getting like so angry because I'm just felt like it feels like everybody else has this like magic key to understanding this just because they were born here and just because their first language is English, and sorry, I don't have that privilege, but like I don't know, I'm like, is this discrimination? I don't know. It felt like even just somebody for whom like English can be a first language, if they like don't have the privilege of like going to college, or I don't know, like maybe they're bilingual and something else, I would want them to be able to read the paper and understand what's happening just as easily as like another person who's reading that paper. And I don't mean understanding easily in terms of like, yes, of course, somebody who has studied neuroscience for 15 years, maybe that's the target demographic for that paper, but I'm not talking even accessibility necessarily in terms of like super simple, explain it like it is to a 5-year-old in terms of concepts. Like, yes, I'm fine with people having to do extra research to understand the background, but at least write that background in simple language. Don't add a whole another layer of using crazy sentence structure. Say things simply. And I like Hemingway because he's easy to read. You can understand what's happening, you can picture it exactly without this whole crazy flowery whatever. Like I just want to understand easily. I don't want to feel like when I read stuff that's really difficult to understand, I feel inferior. And I don't like feeling that way. Obviously. Maybe that's my issue. Whatever. And then I find out that he lived in Key West, and I'm like, I want to see where this man lived. I want to see what he looked out onto. Like, was it the water? Did you see something else? Is there like a pier? Are there yachts? Are there boats? Like, what were you looking at? Also, like, is that where he committed suicide? Is that where he took his own life? Maybe not. I don't think so, because I think it might have been somewhere else. But I just want to see where that man lived and where he contemplated his life, rested, hopefully had fun, because Key West sounds like a nice place to have fun. I lived in Florida for 2 years and I never went down to Key West because I was in high school and I didn't really have people to take me there, and like none of my friends or like my boyfriend's parents at the time, like it would be a huge deal to go to Key West. Like, my friend from that time was nice enough to even take me to Disneyland, and I wouldn't have been able to go by myself because like I didn't have that kind of pocket money. So yeah, it would be cool to go to Florida and, you know, look at it from my eyes of a 25-year-old instead of a 14-year-old. And see where Hemingway lived. Now, other things I wanted to talk about. It is now 10:22. That is fine. So, I guess from watching all those videos and being inspired by people, I just see someone who feels so free, and I guess it takes a level of privilege to be able to go to like Berlin, to Peru, to Bali, like all those, like anything that involves a travel YouTuber. Like, obviously it's not gonna be most people, and it's not gonna be someone in my position, but I don't know, I just had a thought of like, if I was a citizen, like, is this the life that I would want to have? Because the thing is, like, if citizenship's something that I'm working towards, and I'm building a certain kind of life right now that's, my whole life right now is built around just getting through this period of being an immigrant and of being someone who's asking for asylum. Like, I'm moving away from Texas because of asylum stuff. The kinds of jobs that I'm looking for, like being a teacher in the place like where I went to like my second high school in Massachusetts. Like, I want to do those things because that is something that would bring me stability to get through this like 8-year-long period and hopefully come out being approved, you know, after a very long and difficult process. But, or it's like, you know, there will, in any relationship that I have, and I've always been the kind of person, like, every time I say I'm not gonna be in a relationship, then I meet somebody and I fall in love really hard with them, and then we're in a long relationship. And that is also something that, like, I mean, it's a big part of life for me, because having a partner, for me, like, as an immigrant, I know that people are talking about, you know, friends being the support system and stuff like that, but I feel like, at least for me, with how volatile my life is, a partner is the only person who I feel comfortable asking to be there by my side while I'm getting through this stuff. And if the partner happens to be American, like, whether you want to or not, like, we're trying so hard to not, you know, we joke about marriage and stuff like that, but we very clearly understand that because there is that factor that of like how much that would help me, like how huge of a difference it would make in my life. It's such a huge factor that we understand that we aren't thinking about this clearly, because like the power imbalance and that factor of like how big of a difference it makes in the short term, that's something that can be very blinding and that can get people into tricky situation long term. So like, and you know, so sometimes I wonder, like, am I in a relationship because I am in the phase of my life where I desperately need stability? Because, you know, even if that's a part of it, like, I always thought about that even when I get a citizenship, like, I'm probably gonna be the same person with the same, like, overall desires and my habits and things like that. Like, they're probably gonna stay the same, at least for a while. Like, maybe I'll go out of my way and explore or something like that, but I'm still the same person, just different circumstances. But and I still like comfort so much, but sometimes I wonder, like, do I like stability so much right now because of my circumstances, and then when my circumstances change, I'll suddenly have so much more space for instability, and, you know, being ready for that instability, like wanting to travel or do crazy stuff and really go for it with like my art and that kind of thing. Like, whenever my citizenship and that kind of stuff is not an issue anymore, the only issue there would be like money and the life that I have and the life that I have built around for myself. And sometimes I don't know, this week I just had a slight, I was just wondering, like, I don't know, am I building a life that has like an expiration date right at when I get my citizenship, or is it just how I am? Cause I'm scared of committing to something and like asking another person to commit to something to help me, or getting a house, or like building a whole life and settling down, and then I'm scared of like suddenly changing and be like, okay, well, I don't want that anymore, bye. Like, that would be horrible. And I feel a little bit better now thinking about it, because I do think that citizenship or not, like, a lot of stuff that has happened in my life, it has already happened. So my personality is already formed, and yes, it can change, but it's gonna be a lot more gradual. And I really think, like, it's gonna take a lot of getting used to. I really, like, it's not gonna be a super overnight thing. And I think my partner and I have good enough communication about that. And I think, like, if I'm married or something like that, and then suddenly I want to do all these things, like, I don't think it's impossible to figure out. I think it will be tricky because long distance relationships are tricky, and that didn't work for us. Or it only did, but like the last like part of it, like we didn't even really consider it fully like a relationship until I actually moved here. So I don't know. Just sometimes I wonder if my personality, as a result of my circumstances, current, and then if my circumstances change, then my whole personality changes and my desires and whatever change, and then I would be letting people down, or if it's fine and I am me and it's okay to take things slow and just be comfortable. Because honestly, like, I don't know if I would trade the huge anxiety and like re-traumatization of being an immigrant to just having a similar thing, but instead of the US, like it being in another country, because now I decided to travel and now I'm like stuck in another country and stuff like that. Like, people still stress about that. American people still stress about that when they travel, or if they're trying to live somewhere other than the US. Like, they still have worries about visa and that kind of thing and the life that they're building. So yeah. So I think those were the main things that I've been thinking about. And I also wanted to show a zine that I made, and I thought that maybe when we're here in darkness and I'm still not super sleepy because of this crazy light, even though it's 10:32, I guess it's not that bad. If I get back by 11 and then get in bed by 11:30, it's gonna be fine. But yeah, so I made a zine, and I don't know how the video for it is gonna look. Maybe I'll film it like right now, even though I don't have a tripod, which is, of course I forget it. But also I have my bike, which itself can be a tripod, which is where my phone is resting right now. But I wanted to share a zine that is called Dark Summers. That zine addresses my seasonal depression that oddly happens in the summer. This time it also coincided with me finding Typo Negative and just goth metal in general. So I felt like I was finally not guilty about being depressed at times, and I felt like understood, and I wanted to show it in its glory at night. Yeah. Okay, let's do this. Okay, I gotta show this to you. I'm gonna show this to you like this, and then we're gonna do some cool shots of it with some special effects. But okay, am I taking it out carefully? Yes. So here it is. Dark Summers. I'm gonna have to flip this video so that you can actually see it. But anyway. So this is the front. This is the back. And what I was going for with the zine is the contrast between the bright colors and people wanting to celebrate and going out and doing crazy stuff in the summer versus me, kind of like right now, just wanting to be out at night late, wanting to just be dark and depressed because that's how I feel. Because there's something about summer that just, maybe it's from my past, maybe it's something else, but there's something about it that makes the depression come on during this time instead of winter or something like that. So here is page 1. And then page 2. And then page 3. 4. And then page 5 or spread 5. And then the back. And then the front. Okay, let me film this.